Okay.
And we're on. Okay, wait, hang on, not yet. Okay, and I'm now here with my friend Li-Hsian, who is here to talk about parenting her twins. Li-Hsian is a friend of mine that I met. Actually, I got to know her many, many years ago when she was pregnant with her twins, about 7 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And at that point in time, yeah, I was, as a photographer, I met her to take photos of the maternity portraits. And then later on met the twins for the first time, Akash and Isha, when they were born. So it was very, very lovely to get to know Li-Hsian at that point in time. But I think it was a big discovery for Li-Hsian when she discovered that Isha has Down syndrome after the birth. And so today's topic, we are actually going to be talking about how she handles her twins, one who is Isha, who has Down syndrome, and Akash, who is a neurotypical twin. We're going to find out what's neurotypical in a bit and what's Down syndrome all about. So you can educate us, Li-Hsian, because like some people, I had to go and find out what exactly neurotypical mean. Yeah. So welcome. Yeah, as people coming in, we're welcome to everybody else who's joining us on this Facebook Live. And my name is Grace, and I'm the founder for Comma Rating Live. And Comma is all about basically raising, building healthy marriages, strong marriages, and purposeful parenting. And that's why we're having this conversation with Li-Hsian today. Yeah. So, Li-Hsian, maybe I would like to introduce you a little bit by reading your bio, okay? Because, Li-Hsian's got a really interesting background as well. And she used to work in corporate communications. Now she's a freelance writer and a full-time mom to her twins. And she writes for a lot of parenting magazines like markchic.com, if I pronounce it correctly. Yeah, lifestyle publications. And you've written 3 children's picture books. That's really amazing. And you're also very, very involved in arts and discovery and all those kind of things. So maybe Li-Hsian, just introduce yourself a little bit first.
Okay. Currently, I work from home, and so it allows me to have more flexibility in terms of my children's needs. And mostly, I do a lot of writing, and also I do coordination and facility.
Okay.
Coordinate at the Ilham Gallery in town, and a lot of people have been there since we opened in 2015. So we do art tours for children, as well as children's workshops, art science workshops, coding with art. We do a lot of storybook readings, and today is World Book Day, so we also sell picture books that we've read over the years to kids. Yeah. And like Grace mentioned, they are going to be 7 in June, so time really flies from the time.
Wow.
But Grace, also, your company also covered my their first birthday, so I have pictures.
Yes, right. Your first birthday. I remember. I didn't shoot it personally, yeah, but yeah, so fast, right? The kids just grow up so fast.
That's right. So as you mentioned, my twins, they are a boy and a girl. Isha is a child with Down syndrome, and I only learned about since she was born, when she was just born, so it was a little bit of a big shock for me. And my son is neurotypical. Neurotypical is a big word, but he's a regular child. But then again, sometimes who is really neurotypical, right? So sometimes
we all got a bit of screw loose here every now and then, even a normal person.
Everybody learns differently. Everybody takes in stuff differently. So really, neurotypical is really a very funny word, but it means regular. And having I'm just talking a little bit about what are the main things that children with Down syndrome have. Usually, they are born with very low muscle tone. So, baby, she had very low tone. She very floppy. She didn't breastfeed well, and also she had, so she was very sleepy all the time. And then, of course, she had certain features. It's also really due to the low muscle tone. You know, sometimes you see children with Down syndrome, their tongue sticks out. Actually, it's just a feature of the low muscle tone. The tongue is also a muscle.
Right.
It's also because of the muscle problem. It's nothing to do with, oh, because she has this, she has this muscle problem.
So it affects the speech as well?
Speech and feeding, and also speech, definitely. And then sometimes they have heart issues. We were lucky she didn't have major, so she had 2 little holes in her heart. One also go through surgery, through a kind of heart surgery, and then they have some eyesight prone to short-sightedness. So there are there's a host of problems. But the thing is, not a spectrum like autism. It's you actually kind of medical conditions the child has. So that is everyone. So the child with Down syndrome has an extra chromosome 21. So usually that
Okay. All right. Li-Hsian, sorry, my internet is like breaking up here. So sometimes I hear you in little spurts, but hopefully it will not be breaking up and we can hear you clearly. But there's a number of people who are here. There's Nicole, Grace, Ang Amy. I think there's some of your friends here who come to say hello as well. Hang on, let me just check it. Yeah, so they come to support you in your conversation here today. So I'm here together with me is Li-Hsian, who is a mom to twins, Akash and Isha has Down syndrome. And yeah, I just want to be able to pick Li-Hsian's brain a little bit about how exactly do you raise, you know, your children. And I mean, it's hard enough to have twins, right? But to have one twin who's a special needs child and your other twin who's a neurotypical twin, and how do you handle that in your home? Perhaps you could share some insights with us.
Actually, most of the it's a little bit challenging because obviously the special needs thought that the special child will need, you know, the special needs child goes for therapy, goes for extra things here and there. There's a lot of medical visits, especially when she was young. We had a lot of visits. We had to go at 6 months to go check her ears, her eyes, you know, her heart. So those are the challenges. But really, actually, in the end, they're just like any other children. I think the fact that they are year-olds. They are 6-year-olds, and then they do all the things that 6-year-olds do. And even though my age, but the thing about it is her ego is still 6-year-old.
Right, okay.
So imagine if you have a 3-year-old, maybe a 5-year-old ability, but you have a 6-year-old ego. So you always want to do something, but sometimes you get frustrated. And then you got your is trying to make you do stuff, right? And also sort of the naughty stuff. So, but the main thing is what is good about special needs child. You know, people always say, hey, you know, Li-Hsian, you're just lucky. Sometimes they're very kind. They will say to me, oh, she's very lucky. You have her as she has you as her mom. But actually, I'm very lucky in a way. By having a special needs kid, I had to go back to a lot of parenting basics.
Okay. So what kind of parenting basics that you
like mentioned to you, you know, nowadays it's innovative. Go and look back into all those things like, okay, what are the development? What age supposed to be doing, you know, minus all the screens? What are the regular things that a child like this can do and should be able to do?
Okay.
a lot of those things. I can give you one example. When she was small, because she has low muscle tone, like I told you, right? So a lot of the time she didn't feed so well. I went to see a feeding therapist, and I learned a lot of very interesting things. This is one thing that even I think regular parents are surprised, and actually I think because the mouth and the lips and the tongue and your everything inside the oral motor muscle, they're all muscles.
Yeah.
Weak. So if you keep giving, in Asia we always like to give porridge.
Yes.
Always give the porridge, and then you try to follow that, and then milk, a lot of milk. You get nutrition from milk, but it's not a great thing. For her, feeding therapist told us we can't do all those things. We have to start her on solids as quickly as she can.
Oh, okay. So that you train her muscles to chew.
So it's, for example, choppy speech. For example, speech sequences, right? Up and down, tones and everything. And if you have sometimes a disabled, a very choppy, the big muscles are there, but their small muscles are not strong. So you can speech with small muscles, which you can get to eating textured food to chew. You need to eat a lot, and you need to suck the straw, suck things a lot. Actually, a lot of people, regular kids also, they have speech delay, but it could be a feeding problem actually. So that's
right. So how old did they tell you to start all this, to start feeding her solids? Because usually I think like young kids, they feed solids like 4 months, how old? 5 months? I've forgotten already. My kids are now like 5.
We started at 5 months or so. So with
5 months.
Used to gag a lot, but I think I was very dogged to continue. And then that's one thing that I also learned, and another thing I did learn is also currently at this time, I think, everybody is very be behind academically, okay? Or are they going to keep up with the syllabus and all these things? Back, because they can do a lot of things, but sometimes they are slower and they are a bit behind. And you learn to take a step back and say, okay, I read this article once and I thought that life is...
Okay, sorry, Li-Hsian. I really cannot hear you very well because of the internet connection. I would like to know whether our audience is okay and is facing the same issue, because every 2 sentences I'm losing you.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's okay, the audience here, because I can't really hear. Okay, hold on. Okay. All right, we'll just carry on. I might need you to repeat certain things if I catch you there. So just maybe, just carry on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, during the MC, we are very concerned that our children are lagging behind academically. I also have certain level of concern, but I think having a special needs child is kind of actually, for example, there was a sentence I read in a magazine article about this, and it's about it's okay, you want the child to keep up, and it's keep up with the syllabus. It is important to keep up with other kids, but at the same time, that's not the most important thing. I think the most important thing is to keep learning.
And we can learn in many different ways.
So I think keep learning, and so with Isha, what I learned a lot from her therapist and from her doctors is that it's okay, don't keep comparing her to a yardstick. Don't keep comparing her to, okay, so she needs to do all these things that a 6-year-old can do. A lot of 6-year-olds have a lot of variety of skills anyway. And don't keep comparing her to her brother. If Isha at the beginning of the year and Isha at the end of the year is actually much improved version in many ways. In other ways, like, you know, she could not read at the beginning of the year, and now she can simple sentences. Then I think it's more like instead of working on the keep up, just focus on the keep learning principle. So I think that's another key learning that I sort of from parenting both of them. So the yardstick is a little bit different from me, I think.
I guess it's quite true, because like most of the time when even parents who have normal children, like the tendency is to want to compare your elder child to the younger child, or any of your children actually, and like when that child was your age, they could already do this, you know, and you shouldn't actually be comparing all these things that you have this a perfect example of what they should be, but then comparing against the version of themselves.
Yes.
Right? Like you're saying that the version of Isha from the beginning of the year and the version of Isha now, she's improved so much more. And that's a great thing.
From when she was born and when she was small until now, she's so much more improved also, you know. I try to think about it in that way. Of course, there are a lot of challenges that she has to go through, but I think, you know, because it's also a kind of, I think we have to model that kind of situations we have at home. We have to model it so that the child realizes that, okay, it's all right. Even if sometimes Akash is a child, he also has his own issues as a neurotypical child. You know, he's very sensitive. He doesn't like it if he encounters things where he cannot do it perfectly. You know, he used to draw things. If it's not, you know, when you're 5 or 6, you draw something, you have a thought in your head, and then you draw it, and it doesn't look like what you think you want it to look like because your hand can't do it. You
get frustrated.
You feel frustrated, crumple like. But parents told me, you know, actually things quickly and in a careful manner, because if it becomes like that, the child is always wanting to be perfect. Then later on, the child will give up trying things he cannot be good at. Then it kind of the whole purpose of like learning things, right? To be able to do things even though the things that you do you're not good at. You have to try. So now he slowly gets into it. He's sort of like, you know, if he's spelling test, if I test him, he says, oh, you know, he can't get it. I said, you know, it's okay if you can't get it, but at least you try again. So I think
it's the effort, right? We need to praise the child for the effort itself. Yeah, we have a few questions here, Li-Hsian, but also at the same time, I'm going to encourage people to just type in questions in the chat. If you have anything, we'll try to address it. And today's topic is about raising a neurotypical and special needs child sibling. And in this case of Li-Hsian, she has twins. So one of her twins has Down syndrome, and the other child is a neurotypical child. So maybe I can just take one of the comments here first. Just give me a moment here. Comment. Get done. Okay. So the question is from Carmen. Is online learning more helpful for special needs children as they can learn at their own pace? Or is it more important to have physical contact with teachers?
I think it must be blended, because online learning, you should harness, of course, now we all have no choice. We are all in online learning thing. We have no choice. But in a normal situation, that, for example, I'll share, for example, in terms of writing letters, okay, she has weak fine motor skills. So writing is actually a challenge for her. And you know, as a parent, I'm not the most patient person. People think, oh, you know, you have a special needs child, you're very patient. It's not true. I got there are moments though. So, you know, if a child who cannot write but wants to do it, you know how frustrating it is. You have to ask her to repeat the letter A, like you know, 10, 20 times.
Yeah.
You have it, and she's fine. Like, your blood is like, oh, your blood pressure is like coming up. So what we do is I use an app to do the repetitive work.
Okay. What kind of app is that?
like writing apps,
Writing apps, okay.
apps. And the writing apps, you have a lot of those, they let you repeat it again and again and again.
Oh, and children love doing that anyway, repeating things over and over again. They can ask you to read the same storybook like for 50 times.
The computer is fine doing it, right?
Yeah, the computer will never get bored of the child doing and asking to repeat multiple times.
They will give you like star rewards and all that, right? Like give a lot of feedback. So what happened is, but in terms of the writing thing, if your child is using those apps to use, because pencil skills, okay, this skill is no use in the real world.
Oh yeah, swiping skills.
This skill is important, and this skill is also important for a lot of brain connections. So let's get a simple stylus and do that with the stylus. But after she has done maybe like a few rounds of that, you have to go back to pencil and paper, because that's how you operate in the real world. You have to use pencil and paper. You do after she's practiced a few times, then it's easier. So because the computer and the gadgets, they don't really need you to put a lot of pressure when you write.
That's true. Yeah.
So the muscle, you see, when you're writing, you're holding like this, you're moving, but actually pressing down on the paper. So
yes.
Even regular children, that's why it's very bad for regular children to keep doing things all online. So you have to use a combination. And I think face is also important because, unless you want your child to grow up to be a person that only interacts with computers, even if your child has in a low ability to interact with others, there's kids on the spectrum. I think we have to gently sort of that is when you are no longer around. I think that's the biggest worry of special needs parents. You have to rely on other people for support. You need to be able to ask for help, and you have to be able to be friendly and pleasant enough to sort of interact with other people. I think human connection is very important, and we're all feeling it now because we miss it.
Yes, very true. Yeah, I mean, we in current situation when we are at home, online learning is something that every parent has to go through, and it's so difficult to try to manage. I'm working at the same time and trying to manage my kids and their homework and things like that. But it's so true about what you said about the writing and putting down into practice. And even for myself as an adult, I noticed that if I'm on my computer the whole time, and I don't know how to write anymore. Yeah, I feel like my basic writing skills or my handwriting turned out to be so bad. So what more so for the kids, right? And they have to keep on practicing all the skills and the muscles that you're just sitting down in front of a machine, and they don't get that kind of interaction as well. Yeah, so we need to learn how to balance the as you said, the social skills, the physical, and all of these. It becomes very holistic. Yeah. So we have a few more questions and comments as well. So it's nice. Carissa says, does online learning affect special needs? Okay, I think we have answered some parts of that. Where Desiree says it's important to keep learning, so celebrate the small wins. Kaisa says, can we have a repeat? Okay, I'm not sure which part of it because you missed that section. Carmen says, very insightful knowledge about the mouth muscles and how you can train kids by having them eat solid food earlier so that it can help with their speech abilities. I think that's really great insight.
Yeah, you see a lot of Western children, they speak a lot earlier and they talk a lot. I think it's into the solids very quickly.
Oh, I remember I have a friend who lives in Australia, and she told me when her kid was 6 months old, he was chewing on steak. And I was like, what?
You have to watch that they don't gag,
Yeah.
They're little kids. They're learning about the world, how their mouth and everything works. They're bound to have this maybe accident, but you're just, as long as you're there to remove the food if you're gagging or whatever, I think not to be too precious and be too afraid. I think try,
Yeah. Okay. So Carmen says, the same Carmen, she has a question. Is it difficult to raise twins when one is neurotypical and one is not?
Actually, it is, of course, for depending on what kind of special needs. For us, I think Down syndrome, the thing is, if they don't have a lot of major heart issues, like my daughter, she doesn't have a lot of major heart issues. We've fixed the major ones already. Ongoing checking and monitoring and management, like now she wears spectacles,
Okay.
So, but actually, we had managed to keep off the spectacles for a long time. So actually, I say this for regular children also, because we knew that she had, like I said, because of her, we learned a lot of things about what not to do, even with my regular child. Like even the spectacles thing, the eye doctor told us when we used to go for monthly checkup since she was born, she said, be careful, even with regular children. Don't minimize the gadget use, because a lot of kids, they wear spectacles before they get into school. So because very, very low and no screen time for them for a long time. But of course, I'm not saying the gadget is always bad. So it is challenging. But I think sometimes you learn things. The another aspect of it, of course, the regular child, you also have to take care of the regular child.
Yeah, you can't neglect that child.
I always say special needs children's siblings also have special needs. Friend, right? So they must also take note of their special needs. They also to have a lot of time with you. When my daughter was small, I mean now even so, but when she was small, a lot more. You used to go a lot of therapy session. But therapy session for a toddler is playing.
Yes.
With things, jumping around and then, going through the tunnel and everything. And sometimes when my helper is away for holidays, I have to bring him along. And then he's like, what you have been doing with her,
So he wants attention. What about me, mommy? What about me? Look at me. I can do this too.
Yeah, I want to be special. He said, I want to go to therapy also. Every day he will tell me, I want to go to therapy. Because now she's bigger, you play games, in therapy. I want to go to therapy. But you don't need therapy,
You don't need therapy.
A lot like that, they want to go. And then so I have to be very focused. And it's very interesting. He's got his own quirks as well, like I told you. When they first started mainstream school, he was the one that was crying for a little bit every morning for 2 months. So he was very anxious. I don't know, for whatever reason. He had a lot of self-anxiety. So I had a lot of care with him. So I think usually we have to allocate some time, even however busy. For me, it's bedtime. We read 2 or 3 books at bedtime. And I try to pick books that relate to certain issues if he's feeling that certain way. And then I try to also talk to him at bedtime. When he's older now, he will tell me things that he goes through in school or something he's not sure about. He wants me to explain to him what was going on actually. So I use time as the kind of close off to the day, nothing serious, just, chatting about what happened to the day. And we always look forward to that time. For me also, I find things about them.
So I think you have to give dedicated time to your special needs child. You also have to give dedicated time to your normal child because they need your attention and your love as well. So it's basically trying to love them uniquely in their own ways with all their little quirks as well.
Whether it's a special needs child or not, all children, I think it's good to have one-on-one time with, instead of course they do a lot of things together, but I think it's good to have one-on-one time with each child because they like different things and they
true.
Manner. Sometimes we forget and then we lump it all together and then we force them, Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, we do have quite a few questions over here. Somehow, I think a lot of parents are very interested to find out. Andrew says, do you think the MCO period will make it hard for these children to socialize with others due to them spending all their time at home with their immediate family? How do you keep them active socially during this period? And another person, Kenny, says, how do you help parents who's really hectic with all the works at MCO and still have to handle their special needs kids? Yeah, I think those are very, very realistic problems and issues that, every parent face Yeah. So like, what are the things that you have done? I know that you're a full-time mom, but you also do writing on the side. So how do you manage your time and how do you handle them? So there's two questions. One is about how do you keep them active socially, and how do you handle during this season?
So active, I usually, the wonderful thing is when you have more than one child, they keep each other occupied, but also they get into trouble, right? But
You have to rescue them.
But I think what we are very lucky is now we have a lot of resources, but you have to curate them carefully. My daughter, she loves to do dancing. So what I usually, and she goes for Indian dance, usually on Saturdays.
Wow.
But the teacher actually now sends her like this she sent me video links of Indian dance drills she can do at home. So
nice.
just follows, you know.
You do it too?
It's very tiring actually. But then they actually and there are a few channels that my daughter really likes. For example, you know, she's 6, so she likes this, you know, she likes Frozen. So they have this channel, I don't know whether you've seen it, it's called Cosmic Yoga.
Okay, no, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, you take your children. Cosmic Yoga, it sort of like uses stories and then it puts yoga movements into it.
Oh, interesting.
The story of Frozen is told through yoga movement.
Wow.
Always they have Pokemon.
Right,
Story. They have a lot of things that cater to different what children need. And then they also have this thing like there's a dance channel called Go Noodle. You know, Go Noodle. Okay. And then they actually even incorporate some learning with the dancing, like syllables, how many syllables, or following patterns, you know, all these things. It seems like very like frivolous, but these are things that actually our children are learning. They're learning how to movement, is how their limbs work. We forget we're adults, we know how to do all these things. Actually, these are things that are not easy for children. So it's not just fun, but it's actually they're building a lot of muscle and a lot of cognitive and develop how the brain connects to the limbs. You know, we forget that these are learning opportunities. So I think those kind of channels, and even my son's martial arts class, they actually have a lot of live sessions. My children's music school, they even have a lot of live sessions, complimentary live sessions. They even did the other day a pajama party. So you can do it. Yeah, my children have been doing some little bit of play dates on Zoom.
Oh, nice. But, that's to keep them social, right? Like to ensure that they constantly connect with somebody else, even though it's through a device.
Yeah, but for I think busy parents, I really, you know, sympathize with you. And I think busy parents, maybe what you can do is you have to, if you don't have online classes to occupy the child for most part of the day, then I suggest you have to maybe spend a little bit of time every week to plan out what you might want to do. I mean, it's a little, like if you spend 2 hours planning and figuring out what the child can do, like, you know, writing or giving them there's a lot of interesting things on the internet, you know, writing diary on the lockdown or something like that. If you have a younger child, like I said, you can get the writing apps, you know, and then the writing apps, you know, you reward them after they do 30 minutes of the writing apps, then they can play a small game. There's a local, I can share later also, there's a local app that actually reads books to children. So they read if they want, but they can also get the book read to them. So it's when you don't have, but I think every day you need to allocate some time for the child. That means at least 30 minutes to an hour, you know, just to interact, so that they know, okay, they'll do all these things, but at the end of the day, mommy will spend some time with me at the end. Mommy or daddy will spend some time with me at the end.
Yeah, I think for me, it's hard also because I'm in the same room with my 2 kids and they're doing their online schooling and I have to do my work, and every 5 minutes they're like, mommy, help me, or mommy, I can't hear anything in my audio, something like that. And I'm trying to have to solve all these problems for them. But I try to have I give them an idea, like maybe a timetable or sorts, like, okay, okay, I need to do this from here to here, look at the clock, like when the long hand reaches this timing, I can talk to you. So right now, then I try to take turns with my husband and say, could you please, like, okay, what's your schedule for today? Like, can you take them for the first 2 hours? I'll take it after that. I don't have any calls or something, then I can take over. So then at least it gives us a respite and be able to focus as well on the work that we need to do. So that's what I do. You can also have like certain activities that we do. Like, for example, if you're making a Play-Doh, for example, like learn how to make it from scratch, from flour, and then the act of making it becomes an activity, and after that they can entertain themselves with the Play-Doh for at least hopefully an hour. So
you can actually there's a lot of resources you have to curate. You have to find like our gallery, we do share some resources of things that they use without too much parental involvement.
Yeah, I think that's the key, that a lot of parents who are trying to work to give the activities where they don't have to always monitor, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm just going to go to the next question that some other parent says here. Ping Lim asks, should parents practice child-centric approach if they have a special child with them? Or should we treat them as a normal child instead of protecting them all the time?
Yeah, my own approach is not child-centric. I am very old school in that way. I think I do listen to her opinions, and I tell, I sort of like look at her, and I, the things she likes, doesn't like. Of course, now she's older, she has a lot of say in a lot of things, but at the same time, she has to know, like, I'm her parent. I'm not, and things like in our household, I think one very good example is sometimes a lot of special needs parents, they feel, oh, the child is so poor thing, right? We should do what we can for them. As long as they're happy, we just give them whatever they need, and then they don't have to do anything. I don't agree with that. I think it's very important. For example, I always think at the back of my head, when I'm gone, her brother will have to deal with her. And I don't want her to be a burden to her brother. That is my biggest thought in my mind. And of course, her brother has to help her and support her. It's inevitable. But at the same time, I want for her to at least be able to take care of most things herself. You
want to give her that independence. You want to help her to be independent. Because if you perpetually like just coming to every need of hers, meeting every need, that she's not able to feel that she can stand on her own 2 feet.
And it is also, that's what she wants, She is very particular about doing things on her own, because sometimes she is too overly independent. So when we're rushing, want to do herself, then we're like, oh, like, oh my God, So the thing is, so I think we try to give her whatever opportunity we can. We will let her do the thing on her own. She learns on her own, because it is a great disservice to a special needs child if you take over everything. They have no opportunity to grow their muscles, grow their brain, grow their thinking, have an opinion. You are taking away all those opportunities from them if you do that, even though you think it is how you love them, but it's not true. I think to all children, you have to give them an opportunity to be independent, and they have to accept things. And this is one thing the principal of her old special school told me. She said, when you send her, after that we move her to a regular kindergarten, she told me, tell the teachers, don't pity her and help her too much. It's not so much that the teachers won't love her. Actually, sometimes the teacher love you too much, and then they overdo it for you, and then you are like, and children are very clever. If you do it for them, they will let you.
Yes, and I think it's very, very true. It's this kind of there's many parenting styles out there, right? The two most famous things are like the one that's a helicopter type of parent, where you're always protecting your child, like you do, whether it's a regular child or a special needs child, you always want the best for your child. Every parent wants that, right? But then it sometimes becomes too much when your child falls down. Like, oh, you're always there to save the child. When your child forgets the water bottle, it's like, oh, you drive all the way to school to go and send the water bottle. meal. Like you do all the things above and beyond for that child. And that's like a very overprotective kind of approach. Yeah. And then you also have the authoritarian kind of parent who's like, okay, you just, no matter what, you just follow my instructions and you just do it, right?
That's very like what our parents used to do, right?
Yes, the rotan is the parent. Yeah, but it's like if we come from the approach of always making sure that our kid is safe and in the environment that child will never get hurt. The real world doesn't work like that, right? And essentially, whether it is for your special needs child or it's for your regular child, you need to be able to expose them to situations where they will get hurt, or they will, like friends, for example, they will get a situation maybe when they get bullied in school, but then how do you teach them to respond to such a situation? I think that is the most important thing, rather than protecting them all the time, because you can't do that for them when they're adults as well.
Because they have to learn to respond to situations on their own. So if son, like you said, the water bottle thing, if my son, I usually make him accountable for his own. Even my daughter, she loves homework because we make them accountable. If you come home, the first thing you have to do is finish your homework. After resting homework, you are accountable. Because I don't want to be that mother at 10 years old, nagging you to finish your homework. You have to be, if he doesn't do it, I just leave it. Because you know what happens? He'll go to school tomorrow, his teacher will ask him why he didn't do it, and then everybody else will do it. He'll feel ashamed.
Yeah, that's a natural consequence. Yeah.
He needs to feel it, I mean, then he has encountered 1 or 2 times. He's very embarrassed, so he will do it now.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, okay. We also have another question about how do kids with ASD cope well with Zoom learning? And then also another, Raja Rosia asked, and she says her son is autistic and he always gives in to his sisters because they always interrupt his activities. So sometimes I really don't know how to manage the sisters. So Hamza is 4 and the sisters are 7 and 5. Do you have any suggestion how to tackle the older siblings? Okay. Do you have a comment about kids with ASD in the first place?
I wouldn't be able to comment about ASD or autism because I think a lot of their behavior is very specific to the condition. So you have to understand the condition to be able to come up with a strategic response to how you deal with the situation.
Okay.
So it might be better to actually there's a lot of stuff online. I think you can actually Google and say, how, just type in the question as simply as you think of. I think sometimes you will be surprised. You will find a lot of responses to that. Yeah.
Okay, I can say something to Raja Rozia who's asking about autism, because next week I will have an expert on autism speaking as well, and on a Facebook Live. I think we've set it for Monday at 5 p.m. And so she is from Early Autism Project and her name is Jochebeth Isaacs, and we will be speaking about managing challenging behaviors, especially in children with autism. And I think that will be really beneficial to you, and also about how even in the normal situation, I believe that everyone can benefit from this. So yeah, you can look out for it by following our page, comma.rethink live on Facebook, and then you'll see the notification about the date and time, and then you can tune into that. So we have a special one on autism next week. Okay, so today we're speaking mainly from Li-Hsian's personal experience as a mother, mothering and parenting her twins, and Isha who has Down syndrome. And maybe Li-Hsian, you can talk about a little bit about the education right now, because moving on about the concept about like how they get exposed to regular children and everything else, and you talk about this idea about the inclusive education. So perhaps you can tell us a little about what that means and how does that look like for you?
Yeah, inclusive education is a very specific term. I think not everybody understands what it truly involves. There are very few inclusive schools here in Malaysia. So there are a few situations. First, there are four scenarios. The first is excluded. That is what is maybe, and in our time when we were growing up, a lot of the kids who have special needs, they don't have a lot of educational opportunities. Maybe they might not even go to primary school, or if they finish primary school, maybe they keep them at home because they cannot go for it. And then they hide them also. So that's exclusion, that's total exclusion. Now we have sometimes in government school what you call the segregation model, where actually they are in the school, but they're in a class on their own. And sometimes they're together with all different special needs, which is not ideal. but at least they're going to school, you know.
Yeah.
But have some periods where they come out during you know, break time or recess, or certain classes maybe they incorporate them into the classes. So but there is a segregation model, and also special schools are a kind of segregation model. I mean, I don't mean to make it sound negative, but it is segregating them. And my daughter started out in a special school too, you know, in the Kiwanis Down Syndrome Foundation school for kids with Down syndrome. They start them from 2 months up to 6, 7 years old. And it's just all kids with Down syndrome. You know, Kiwanis was very good. They started this program, and it's been around for 30 years now. And the school actually is a rallying point. So it's only focused on kids with Down syndrome. And it's great because they teach them a lot of life skills, and they work on a lot of things that they need to work on, kids like them. Moving forward is after they have picked up certain skills, I don't think it is so great for them to always all of them be together, because in the real world they are not going to live like that. And then when they're all together, sometimes a lot of them, they can be very passive, and then they don't have very good speech sometimes because there are no opportunity to practice with a proper speaking child.
That's true.
So they have this thing. There's a concept that my daughter's cognitive therapist told me about. It's a mirror neuron.
Okay.
A person like you and me, or a regular child, they learn through mirroring and eavesdrop a lot. That's why
so if you're surrounded by the same group of people who have difficulty in pronunciation and things like that, you're going to mirror each other.
You're going to learn those things also. You know, like if your child spends a lot of time with your Filipino mate, the child's speech all going to be the Filipino accent, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's inevitable because this is the regularity of the interaction. So it was she also became like that. It was not her personality, but she became very passive and quiet, and then she was very not moving a lot. So it cannot be helped because it's like that, you know, in the school. So that is also a segregation model. But then now we have more what you call the inclusion model, right? And we have partial, sort of full inclusion. Full inclusion actually means the child actually is going to school in the same year, or maybe in what they call the mental age year. Maybe if your child is 6, but it's a special needs child, but cognitively is about 5 years old, you will go into a class with 5-year-olds.
Right.
And then they are in the class. And actually,
they're not separated from everybody else as a special needs class. Yeah.
Some kind of adaptation and modification is available to them from the teacher, or even sometimes some schools will actually ask for an aid. But I feel the aid thing is very debatable also. Some children, they do need an aid, you know, and it can be very, very expensive to have. In UK, the social services will provide you with the aid. Here we don't have that kind of service, and hopefully we should be able to provide children who really needed that kind of service. But the aid is not ideal. You know, sometimes school, I feel, demand it, because especially private school, because it they don't want other parents to complain. Then they have to complain. So people are actually sort of making it difficult actually for the child to get that kind of independent learning. You know, they impose that thing. People are putting in this kind of criteria. It's not for because of the child really needs it sometimes. So even if they demand for an aid, you should be weaning off the aid at some point. I mean, think about it. If your teacher is there and you have an aid, and the teacher is going to help the child, the teacher will not bother to interact with your child. Yeah. And also, the teacher also will not, the other children, who wants to hang around with the kid with an adult that's stuck to them all the time, right? So it's very debatable, but definitely in situation when you need it, you have to have it. But usually, like she now goes to a private school, a small one, and I find it's really good because it's really including her. She's below her brother. She's in grade 1 and he's in grade 2, and she's there by herself. So whatever issue she have, I try to work with the teacher. If the teacher tells me, okay, she's having this thing, so sometimes I get the work for the next week on Friday, and now I work her over the weekend, and then on Monday she feels more confident. We forget
Okay.
that children have confidence issues also. We think like, do it, why can't they do it? You know, the 6 years old, this 6-year-old stuff. Actually, sometimes they're just like us. We can do a lot of things, but we have a confidence issue, we're not going to try, we feel frustrated. And then when we frustrate, we withdraw from the situation. That's why you see the child like running around the floor, or, you know, she started like that, running on the floor and then being on the table, doesn't want to do things. Because she was frustrated, she wanted to do it, but she felt ashamed that she couldn't. So she had the confidence issue.
So how do you work through some of these issues, and what are some of the practices that you had at home to ensure that you help her to be ready for an inclusive education?
We exposed her to a lot of regular children early. She started off in a mainstream kindergarten very early, about 2.5. And when I transitioned her, I was half and half. 3 days she was in a special school, and those was in the afternoons. And then 3 days she was in a regular kindergarten. And then in fact, one day, poor thing, she was very tired. Morning she would go somewhere, and then afternoon she would go to the other school. So, but we just stuck to it, you know, we were very dogged about it. We stuck to it. And then we kind of, we also bring her for a lot enrichment classes outside, like music. She used to swimming with other kids, and some of them are regular children. And I think we expose her to a lot of different kids. So she's used to like making friends. In fact, she's better at making friends than my son. My son is a personality thing also, we've discovered. He's shy and he's a bit anxious. So usually in like music class, you know, other kids will come and talk to her because she's more cheerful. Then the guy will be like, oh, then he will come to be friendly with her, you know. And then you will like bandwagon.
So I think it's very important as well to expose our regular children to children with special needs, because then you learn how to be more sensitive, but at the same time handle this. It's totally like so to just accept as one of their own and just play with them. I think that's really wonderful. Yeah, I think that's what we want to encourage as well.
I think it's important because in society, if you expose them early, it's not something scary or, you know, worrying or anything. And then even regular children, you will grow up with thinking about everybody's needs. You know, like the MCO, I'm very touched by a lot of people who care about a lot of people who cannot afford food or cannot go out or, you know, have problems. And they care about it. These are probably people who have been brought up by very amazing parents who think about other people. And so because of that, they are so giving. And, you know, I don't know about you. I mean, everybody, it's like, it's nice, isn't it, to live in a community like this rather than where everybody is selfish and just cares about yourself. You know, you see those protests sometimes, or people, you know, they can't stand it. They don't want to be in the lockdown. They want to get out. I think it's terrible. You know, you have to be community spirited. And also when kids who are regular and they are exposed a lot to special needs children, or not only special needs children who are different from them, different race, different culture, when you later on, when you have a job, you will invent things, or you will build houses, or you will sell things. You will think about everybody.
That's very true.
About the mainstream person.
And I think living in a country like Malaysia, where it's so diverse and we have so many different cultures, everything, like you need to learn how to be sensitive to one another, and not only that, but like be very open to listening to different people's perspectives and point of views. And it really just starts from childhood. Right, like I know, like I grew up from I grew up in a Peranakan family, and like I speak more Malay at home than Chinese. So yeah, so we identify more with the Malay community, right, than compared to the Chinese speaking community. But it's because like it's what you'll be exposed to as a child. So I think it's very important in every single child of ours, like in the formative years especially, that we are building their value, self-esteem, their relationship, their social skills, to expose them as much as possible to different people. But it comes from us. Like we set the standards. We will have to go and do something about it. Yeah.
Right. I think so too. Yes.
Okay, we do have some Desiree commented. So if any parent who is interested in finding out information about autism, you can check out the blog by Autism Treatment Center of America, and that's blog.autismtreatmentcenter.org. Actually, I have also recently created some content for autism at home.co, I think so. I will type in the link as well later on, because basically together with my my friend Joshua is going to be coming on next week to specifically talk about autism. Like we created some video content to help parents to deal with their children at home. So we have come up with some video resources. Yeah. So Amy Ang also has a question. In the schools that have inclusive education, are the teachers well trained for teaching special education needs kids?
Not always. Like in my children's school, they're not trained for it. They're not trained, I would say they're not largely not trained for it. But I think, you know, I have interviewed before at another school with some people. They have teachers who are trained for it. And what I realized is, and that school actually, some, you know, at that time when we went there, they actually rejected her for a lot of very, I feel, unreasonable reasons. So like they said that, you know, the school was big and there's staircase, you know, she can actually navigate through a lot of staircase and she's going to be growing and improving all the time. So I realized that from that experience, I realized that actually the teacher, while it's good if the teacher has some special education background, is good, but the most important thing I think is the mindset of the teacher and the heart of the teacher also. You know, in my children's current school, the teachers are very loving and supportive, and they also, you know, whatever like she, of course she has challenges with math, you know, and they were math, and then they say, oh, we're going to start this now, addition, and how we going to, you know, she doesn't seem to be able to follow it. So after that, but you just have to communicate to me. I'm the parent. I have access to a lot of resources through my own research or through the therapist. I can bring the resources to the table. And then, so in the end, I asked the therapist and she said, okay, you can use this method. So she taught me things like, you know, first draw circles with simple numbers. Now she's moving to bigger numbers. We use a method called mouth finger. That means the first number you say 5 plus 3. So 5 you say with your mouth, and then the 3 you use finger.
Okay.
Now 8. You know, so they can bigger number.
Yeah.
Right? So and then it's also language. For her, it's about language. Plus, minor, very abstract language. If you use put together or take or throw away, then it become more like regular language. So I this, and you know, the interesting thing about that is because the teacher is very open and receptive to my feedback, then they find a new method to teach other children also. So in a way, inclusive classroom is very interesting because not only is beneficial for the special needs child, it benefits the other children in the class. Of course, the usual benefit people say is like, oh, the child is exposed to, the child learn to be kinder, more considerate, helpful, and then open to children who are different. That's one side of things. That is the usual regular benefit. But actually, you may not realize it. Your child, if your child is in a school that's inclusive, your child benefits also because your child is also unique.
Yes.
Everyone wants to feel their child is very unique, like a little unique snowflake, right? Yeah. And you know, your child has a lot of quirks. Like my son, you know, he's what you call neurotypical, but he's very quirky in his own way. He may not respond to things if you just ask him. You have to draw him out of things. And he, talking to my husband, he knows a lot of things, but he's not very expressive. He's a kind of silent type. So you find that if in an inclusive classroom, because the teacher is very sensitive, loving, caring, and warm, the teacher will also be the same way with your child. If you have found people with these kind of teachers, they will be like that. In our old kindergarten, I remember there were some children who had developmental, some issues with certain words, and then later on, the teacher actually highlighted to the parents, and then they brought those children for, you know, to see the medical professionals, and then they realized children have some special needs also.
I see.
So, because the teacher is very sensitive after being exposed to a child.
Yeah. I think the key thing that is so good for me and a big takeaway is the fact that, you know, we really need to learn how to treat our special needs child and also the neurotypical child in ways that are unique to them. And, you know, as you said, like everybody has their own quirks, everyone has that. And how do we identify certain things about them, their challenges that they may face unique to them, and to bring it out of them. And that really takes a lot of sensitivity from the part of the parent, from the part of the educators, to ensure that everybody is able to just listen to them and not just impose what you think is right upon them, or the way that you, or the method of teaching that you think, oh, it must be done this way and therefore it's only this way. Like, I mean, speaking about maths, for example, like my son also, as a 5-year-old, he's like, he's like, he doesn't like to sit down and do all these things. So sometimes you have to do it like visually. So the one that counting in your head is one way, and then the other one is like, I had to take down like, okay, look at this marker pen. There's 5 here, there's 3 here. So you find creative ways to teach them.
Yeah. Because that's why I said nobody's really neurotypical, and you know, I think that's why there's a lot of cases now of childhood depression, and these things like teenagers, they have a lot of problems because they are forced. We are schooled in a system that was spawned during the Industrial Revolution, where factories were the main source of the economy, you know, income for the economy. So we want everybody to conform, but we are not like that anymore. We don't have to be like that. So we actually should be finding out how children are learning differently. And if the teacher is good, it doesn't take a lot of extra work to find out how to, you know, engage a child in a very different way.
Yeah. Well, Li-Hsian, it's been 1 hour since we've had our conversation. And it's really interesting and very, very helpful, I hope, to all the parents who are listening. So I really appreciate your time over here. But to all the parents who have been listening to our conversation, thank you very much. If we missed out your question, we will try to answer it in the comment section later on. But please follow comma.rethink live, and for more updates on, you know, purposeful parenting, whether it is a regular parenting, or this month Esteem is about special needs, raising special needs children. And, you know, we also have content about marriages and building strong marriages. And so, Lisa, thank you so much for the conversation. I really hope that I get to photograph your family again soon. Yeah, and thank you for providing all these insights to parents out there. It's very true that we are living in a situation where we were brought up in a situation where we have to conform to things. And I, as a parent myself, I discovered that a lot of parenting is about discovering me, right? Yes. As a person, and realizing that I am inflexible in many ways. Actually, it's about me. And if I learn how to change myself and my worldview, I can help my child so much better, because I cannot box them into this one way of raising them, one way of doing things for them. But we need to be so open to different types of ideas and trying out things and methods that work, or discovering it, whether it works for you or not. Yeah.
Last thought to leave with. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you so much. So thanks, Lisa, and keep in touch.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.